And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our March edition of the Superintendents Webcast. We do have a pretty nice agenda for you today, so it gives some opportunity to follow up on some legislation and other things. But again, we know that everyone is gearing up for spring break coming up pretty soon for those of you that get to keep your spring break. And so hopefully you'll get some free time and a little bit of time away from school, although the superintendent job is a 24/7, 365 type of job. I remember that vividly. But also too, we're getting into the home stretch. We're in the middle of our testing window for our state test with the SAT, which we're hearing some good reports on as the SAT is moving along. And then too, before you know it, we'll be doing KSA and graduation. So we're in that home stretch, and we hope everyone is having a good start to the spring and looking forward to the remainder of the school year. If we could switch slides, please. As far as our agenda again for today, we'll have some welcomes from the commissioner, of course. I'll give you a few. There's quite a few on here, as a matter of fact, that we'll run through. Also, we have Jennifer Gann, our Director of Communications. We'll be talking to you about some other updates, some grant possibilities for folks on the call. We will also have an opportunity here to have the people from the Department of Insurance, Property, and Casualty, and also the Department of Insurance General Counsel and the Department of Insurance Chief Financial Examiner, and that is Jeff Gaither. Then also Russ Coy and Brad Wilson will be here to talk to you about understanding self-insured funds in that presentation. So we do welcome the gentleman here to be a part of our March webcast. We will close out with Brian. Dr. Perry will talk to you about some 2026 General Assembly updates. If Dr. Perry and some others are meeting with some legislators right now, if they were to run late, I will give that update to you, and we'll be able to open for some questions. And as always, we'll close with questions and answers and some important dates as we move on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If you haven't had the opportunity to attend this conference, we had our Educator Rising state conference here recently on March 5th. We had 875 students registered for this event, which broke our previous record of 774. Great presentations, great enthusiasm. It is wonderful to be with these future educators as part of our Educator Rising conference. And for those of you who may not know, the Educators Rising Kentucky is the career technical student organization for middle and high school students interested in education-related careers, and the chapter is part of the National Educators Rising program, which seeks to create a clear pathway in every school district for young people who want to serve their communities as highly skilled educators. Again, this happens each March. Even if you wanted to visit next March just to see what it's about, I would highly recommend it to see some of the presentations. The enthusiasm for our profession is awesome to be a part of. So again, very thankful for our students. I think we had on here 12 new chapters. We actually had one chapter to bring, I think, a total number of 71 students. So it's great to see that from the eastern to the western, northern, and central and southern part of our state. It's great to see all of our future educators as they be a part of this conference each year. Next slide, please. I want to congratulate our two KESSP winners again. We'll visit first of all from the Taylor County with Superintendent Robert Braden. In his district, we have Miss Vanessa Lyons, who is a reading interventionist educator and program facilitator for Taylor County Intermediate School. And then we'll go on to visit, and we talked to Superintendent Willie Foster. Dr. Foster and his group had the second winner, who is Miss Kayla Marshall, and she's an instructional assistant and girls basketball coach for Spencer County Public Schools. As a matter of fact, that evening, I think Miss Marshall and the team was playing in the district championship. They were going to be playing against Anderson County later on that evening. But in case you didn't know, the KESSP Award was created in 2020 by Governor Beshear and the Lieutenant Governor Coleman to recognize the 46,000 classified school employees in our Commonwealth. This award is given each year. I think we try to do 2 each year as we go through, but it is a nice visit, and it is a surprise to those people that win the award. It's wonderful to see their expression, and we try to hide their families and bring them in. There's a lot of tears shed, but again, very thankful to Miss Vanessa Lyons and the work that she does as a reading intervention educator at Taylor County, and Miss Kayla Marshall as an instructional assistant at Spencer County Schools. So congratulations again to Superintendent Braden and Superintendent Foster for having those 2 award winners. And next slide, I think, is some pictures of it. You can see Miss Lyons there on the left and Miss Marshall on the right. Absolutely just were, it was great to listen to them talk about what they do each and every day. Some great stories there. I think Miss Marshall, if I'm not mistaken, has qualified for the national award, award for classified employees. So we're waiting to see what the results of that look like too. Next slide, please. Also, we had 104 educators who opted to renew their certification for national board certification. We had a ceremony at Kentucky State University on February 23rd. That now gives us 4,584 nationally board certified teachers. Of course, we also had, as you can see at the top, the additional 83 new national board certified teachers. So again, that places us 12th in the nation. Considering the size of Kentucky, that's a great accomplishment. And the NBCT certification is designed to develop and retain accomplished teachers, ultimately improving student learning outcomes. As a former superintendent, it was always great to see our people be a part of the National Board Certified program, the action research that they would do and implement. It was always great to see the impact that this program made on our teachers. And we had several of those in Lawrence County, and we hope that grows not only in Lawrence County, but across our Commonwealth. Also, during the ceremony, we'd like to also put in there that we had 2 NBCTs with the Network Champions Award. That was Caitlin McClure and Brian McDowell. So congratulations to our 2 educators, and also congratulations to our new National Board Certified teachers and the 104 that opted to renew. Next slide, please. Now we'll travel to Frankfort High School and with Frankfort Independent. So congratulations to Superintendent Satterley. We had a young lady, Addison Baker, who is a senior there at Frankfort High School. She was honored by the Kentucky World Language Association with the prestigious Amici Linguarum K-12 Student Award for her exceptional achievement in language studies. And something so amazing here, she does use her Spanish expertise to connect with patients while she interns at a hospital. And she wants to be a labor and delivery nurse after she graduates. Of course, as the internship, she's seen everything from C-sections to deliveries and even helped cleaning beds. So it's very much a real world experience for Miss Baker. But she also she's also studied Spanish for 13 years, and she knows that knowing Spanish is beneficial for working in the hospital because not every patient speaks English. She would be a great asset to any school or any hospital or any university that she plans to attend. So congratulations, Sherry Satterley and Addison Baker there at Frankfort High School. Next slide, please. Christian County. We're going to travel to Christian County next, and congratulations to Superintendent Chris Bensel. We had 2 Kentucky schools named 2025 National ESEA Distinguished Schools. One is Southern Christian Elementary, and also the other is Crofton Elementary School. South Christian Elementary was recognized for closing the achievement gap between student groups, whereas Crofton Elementary was recognized for excellence in serving special populations of students. So again, a national award for 2 of our schools there in Christian County. So congratulations to Superintendent Bensel and all the good people there at the 2 elementary schools in Christian County. Next slide, please. Also, the registration is open for our next Kaleidoscope Community Practice Cohort. The Kaleidoscope is designed for all K-12 special education teachers and offers free, high-quality professional learning focused on specially designed instruction. Participants who complete all sessions will receive classroom kits featuring resources for reading, math, and behavior support. In order to learn more about the Kaleidoscope Community of Practice, you can visit the webpage that we have hyperlinked there and register before April 30th. Next slide, please. And I believe this closes my portion of the presentation, but we do have nominations open for the 2026 Kentucky Exemplary Educators Program, or the KEEP program as we call it. And we are seeking recommendations for exemplary educators and leaders in the Commonwealth's public schools to join the KEEP program. Recommendations must be submitted online by May 1st, at 11:59 Central Time. Recommendations should be made by education leaders. Self-recommendations will not be accepted, and it is a confidential process. Candidates should not be aware of this recommendation. The candidates' contributions to education should be largely unheralded yet worthy of the spotlight. Again, we want to make sure that we highlight those people across our Commonwealth, whether it be the Milken Award, whether it be the KESP Award, the KEEP Award, and many others. We want to do our best to highlight our educators, whether it be classified educators or certified educators, and the work that they do on behalf of our students. If you want to nominate an educator, you can submit the online form that we have hyperlinked there at the bottom of the page. We also reference the 2026 KEEP Guide is also hyperlinked there on this slide. Next slide, please. That's my updates, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer again to talk about some possible grant opportunities for districts.
Jennifer, thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Up first, I believe you've probably seen this already. FY26 Migrant Education Program Grant. Applications are due March 17th at 4 p.m. Pardon me, Kentucky and allergies. Award amount is up to $280,000 per year for up to 4 years. There is no matching funds requirement. The program provides states with funding to reduce the impact of educational barriers on migratory children ages 3 through 21. These children run a greater risk of failing to meet the challenging state content and performance standards. Low academic achievement and frustration with school may cause many migrant children to drop out in their early teens. Our last one, the FY26 Math Achievement Fund Middle School Coaching Pilot Grant. This is a deadline extension to March 19th at 4 p.m. The award amount is $62,000 per year for up to 2 years. There is no matching fund requirement. So this pilot grant provides developmentally appropriate diagnostic assessment and intervention services to students to help them reach proficiency in mathematics. Mathematics coach will improve mathematics teaching practices by working with teachers grades 6 through 8 in their classrooms. Eligibility for this grant has been increased to additional schools and districts, so there is another opportunity for your district to apply if it hasn't. Applicants are responsible for monitoring KDE's competitive grants webpage, and we have a link to it on the slide. And if you have any questions, you can email Jennifer Bryant. So our application window has been extended for non-voting student and teacher KBE members. So if you know anybody who you think would be a good fit for this, particularly, we would like to see a lot of really great teachers apply. The new deadline is March 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so we've still got a couple of weeks. Each member would serve a 1-year term from July 1 of this year to June 30th of next year. To be considered for the non-voting teacher position, the applicant must be employed on a full-time basis by a Kentucky Public School District in a position for which EPSB certification is required, not employed in an administrative role, and must reside in Kentucky's 4th Congressional District. And you can see the list there of the districts that are included. The required materials for the teacher application include the online KBE non-voting teacher application, resume, narrative statement explaining why the applicant wants to serve, a statement of assurance that the applicant meets the definition of teacher, and a description of any pending final disciplinary action against the applicant by EPSB. And for the students, they must be enrolled in a Kentucky public high school, be a junior at the time of appointment, so this should be a sophomore now, and they must reside in Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. And there is the list of the Congressional District. Required materials for the student application include the online KBE non-voting student application, resume, narrative statement, explaining why the applicant wants to serve, 2 letters of recommendation, a parent statement of support, and an optional school statement of support. And the one nice addition is for the non-voting student member to the KBE, we also invite them to be on the Commissioner Student Advisory Council. That's an automatic, you get an invitation to join. So for more information, contact Clifton Sandgrider Jones. Please share this information widely. We really want to have a large pool and just offer this experience to a teacher and a student. It's great for the board, and it's also great for the people who participate. Next, we have our Public Protection Cabinet, which is Brad Wilson, Russ Coy, and Jeff Gaither. Are you with us?
We're here.
All right, carry on.
All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to get things started. My name's Brad Wilson. I'm the Insurance Program Manager for the Department of Insurance in the Property and Casualty Division, and I'm going to be going over some basics of insurance. What is insurance? Insurance is a legally binding contract where an individual or entity receives financial protection or reimbursement for specific losses from an insurance company. In exchange for paying a premium, the insurer promises to compensate the policyholder for covered damages, accidents, or liabilities. Insurance is a risk management tool, transferring the potential for large financial losses to the insurer. Next slide, please. How does insurance work? It all comes down to risk shifting and risk pooling. You shift your risk of loss to a third party. The third party pools your risk of loss with other similarly situated individuals. Next slide, please. So some useful insurance terms. The top two, these are super important to know about your policy, is do you have an actual cash value policy or do you have a replacement cost policy? Actual cash value, the cost to replace or repair the property, taking into consideration age and general condition, equal to replacement cost minus depreciation. Or replacement cost, the cost to replace your property without considering age or condition of the original item. And like I said, these are two super important parts that you need to know up front, and don't wait till claims time to figure out what kind of policy you have. Stop loss coverage. Self-insured entities often buy stop loss insurance to protect against catastrophic, unpredictable, or high dollar claims. Deductible, the amount you will pay for a claim or a loss before the insurance company begins to pay. Next slide, please. So a basic example of this would be you have your school insured for $25 million and your deductible is $25,000. If you file a claim, you'll be required to pay the $25,000 before the insurance company begins paying for the claim. If your repairs cost $1 million, the insurance company will pay $975,000. You pay $25,000. Next slide, please. So parts of a commercial policy. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is some of the highlights. Commercial property, that covers the permanent structures, including classrooms, gymnasiums, and administrative offices. General liability, that protects against common incidents like slip and falls, playground injuries, or slander libel claims. Professional liability covers claims related to professional mistakes such as failure to provide adequate education, academic discrimination, or improper discipline. Business personal property, that covers movable items inside the school such as desks, chairs, computers, textbooks. Equipment breakdown specifically covers the repair of mechanical systems such as boilers or your HVAC units. Next slide, please. So this is a basic example of what a declarations page will look like. You will get one of these when the policy is issued, as well as every renewal. You will get a deck page, and it's important to look, what is your coverage for the buildings? What is your limit of insurance? What is your deductible? So all of these are super important to review every time you get one of these deck pages. Next slide, please. And at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Russ Coy.
Thank you. So we're going to pivot to a different topic, which is self-insurance. In the last year or so, we've been getting a whole bunch of questions about self-insurance, and we wanted to cover it with you all. So first, what is self-insurance? Quite simply, as Brad was talking about, there's risk pooling. This is where you as individuals pool your assets to cover claims instead of paying premiums to an insurance company. Self-insurance is best suited for managing predictable low risks or for financially strong entities capable of absorbing major losses. There's a few key points to emphasize here. First is instead of transferring risks, you're assuming full financial responsibility. You're on the hook for all those losses and all those claims. Second, financial capacity. It requires significant assets to pay claims directly as they occur. And finally, a key point in Kentucky is self-insurance claims are not covered by the Kentucky Insurance Guarantee Association. So there's nobody else to get you off the hook. And then another key element of self-insurance is stop loss, which Brad mentioned earlier. I'm going to give you an example of stop loss just so you understand it a little more. Let's say that you have a self-insured retention of $1 million and you have a stop loss policy with an insurance company that covers specific claims from 1 to 3 million and aggregate claims of 20 million. Specific and aggregate are two key terms to ask about. So let's say you've got a $3 million claim. You pay the first $1 million, then the stop loss carrier pays the next $2 million of that $3 million claim. If you go over 3 million, those losses come back on you. So aggregate, let's say you have 10 $3 million claims. You're going to pay 1 million for each of those claims, or $10 million. The stop loss carrier is going to pay 2 million for each of those claims, up to 20 million, or its aggregate limit. At that point, it doesn't pay anymore. So if you have another claim, that 11th claim, you're going to be responsible for all that. Or if there's amounts over that 20 million, you're going to be responsible for all of that. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of new superintendents out there. So we're going to go a little history lesson here. The commissioner wanted us to kind of remind everybody of this unfortunate war story. Kisbet. So way back in the late 80s, the Kentucky School Board Association started 2 self-insurance funds, one for workers' comp and one for property liability. Between 1995 and 2013, the fund basically had losses for just about every single year. And this was despite corrective action plans, changes in management, and all sorts of other things they did to try to stem the losses. That's the thing about insurance. When the losses come, there's really nothing you can do but absorb them. So in 2012, Kisbet ceased writing business and started looking to assess its members. The Kisbet plan of assessment failed to be approved. The members got into arguments over how much they should pay, who should pay what, and all the methods of payment, which led to litigation. And the fund was ultimately placed in rehabilitation, which is kind of like bankruptcy, but the insurance version, in 2013. The total assessment plan totaled $48.5 million. That's $36 million for workers' comp and $12.5 million for property and liability. Next slide. So after significant litigation and cost, I might note, the final assessment plan was approved by the Franco Circuit Court and was implemented in 2014. All the workers' comp claims were transferred to KEME for claims management, and all the members were given an option to pay the full amount up front or to make payments over 6 years, which just about everybody took the 6-year payment plan. After final adjudication of claims and everything else, there was about $15 million in claim savings. So the final total assessment when the estate was closed was $34.6 million, including special fund assessments. Kisbet's basic example of what can go wrong with self-insurance, and there's a lot of elements you need to consider when you're doing a self-insured program. That said, we do have self-insurance funds that operated 20 or 30 years without losses, or without major losses, I should say, in assessments. Next slide. This is the statute that permits assessment. I'm just making 2 points on it. One is it expressly allows for assessment of all the members. And another point to make is there is a KDA statute that's outside the insurance code that allows them to basically intercept your SEEK funds to pay these assessments. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Jeff Gaither.
Thank you, Russ. Good afternoon, everyone. I do want to take a few minutes and discuss when a self-insured fund may need to make an assessment of its members. So as Russ pointed out, the Commonwealth has a code that dictates this, and that's Chapter 304, Subtitle 48, Section 250, which is titled assessments of members when assets are insufficient or when there's a deficiency in a fund year. And I want to break that down. So the first part of that talks about the assets of the liability self-insured fund. If at any time that's determined to be insufficient to cover the fund's legal liabilities and to maintain the required reserves that are under this subtitle, the fund shall immediately levy an assessment upon its members for the amount necessary to make up the deficiency. Now, the second part of the statute talks about a deficiency in any fund year, and I'll explain the fund year in just a second. But if there's a deficiency in any fund year, it must be made up immediately from the following: surplus from a fund year other than the current year after prior notice of the transfer has been given to the Commissioner of Insurance, administrative funds, assessments of membership, the emphasis was added by me, or alternate methods as the Commissioner may direct or approve. So self-insured funds analyze their results on a fund year basis, and that typically runs from July 1st to June 30th. The premiums and other revenue that typically are earned during the year are easy to monitor. The claims are a bit more tricky because they're monitored by their incurred date and their paid date. Some claims, such as property claims, have a relatively short tail and they develop quickly. Some claims, such as liability claims, have a slightly longer tail and it may take several years for them fully to develop. So it may be 3 or 5 years down the road. And other claims, such as workers' comp claims, have a very long tail and may take decades to fully develop. Now, the point I want to make is it may take a self-insured fund several years to determine if a particular fund year has a deficiency. Now, once that's been determined, the self-insured fund must remedy the deficiency. Next slide, please. So what can lead to assessments? Obviously, catastrophes are something you have to consider. If you have a catastrophe and the incurred claims exceed the coverage provided by the excess carrier, that could come back on the entire membership, or it could go back to a specific member. That depends on how the policy is written, and it's your responsibility to understand how that is written, whether those can be shared results or if it's specific to a member. Now, this graph I have right here, the bar chart to the side, is just an example. The retention levels and the self-insured retention level, the deductible level and the self-insured retention level, and the amount of excess coverage, that's going to vary by peril covered. So your property coverage, for the fire, a fire will be one thing. It'll be something completely different for windstorms, hailstorms, vandalism. And then when you get into your liability coverage, it's going to be different. And your workers' comp coverage, that will be different as well. You have to understand what your deductible will be, because you may be thinking, I've got a $25,000 deductible, but if a tornado runs through, that coverage may be written in a manner that will say, no, your deductible is actually $100,000 per property insured, not per occurrence, per property insured. And then there is no self-insured retention level, but the excess carrier will cover up to $500 million. Well, I'll give Shelby County as an example here. That's where I'm from. Rocket Lane has 4 schools on it, and it's about a quarter-mile stretch. If a tornado rolled through there and it tore up those 4 schools, Shelby County's looking at, 4 independent claims at $100,000 each. They're going to have to pay $400,000 instead of a $25,000 deductible. You just have to understand how those retention levels and deductibles work for each different peril. If we could go to slide 31, please. Other factors that could lead to assessments, the frequency and severity of claims is very important. That could happen in a fund year, and it could lead to a deficiency if the premiums charged aren't adequate. And then you get into the management of the fund. If management isn't handled correctly, that can cause shortfalls in the fund. And I'll give you just a few examples of that. If fund management doesn't secure the proper amount of excess coverage, or the excess coverage isn't at a reasonable rate, again, that can lead to a fund year deficiency. If management doesn't invest their funds properly, that can lead to realized and unrealized losses, which could cause a shortfall in the income, and again, lead to a fund year deficiency. Management charging excessive fees for their services, or management granting excessive, unwarranted premium discounts to its members. All of these can be detrimental to the fund. If you go back to slide 29. So, can a member be assessed even after leaving the program? Next slide. Yes, they can, and you have to be aware of that. Should the total obligations for a program year exceed the total assets of that year, the members participating in that particular program year may be assessed a pro rata share of the additional contributions required to cover the deficit. Again, you need to realize financial results of that program year may take several years to fully develop. And let me give you a clear example of that. Let's say you're a member of ABC Self-Insured Fund for 1 year. And let's say from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. And on July 1st, 2021, you leave the fund and get insurance through a traditional carrier, and that's who you've had it with ever since. Well, 5 years later, on June 30th, 2026, ABC has determined that the fund year ending June 30th, 2021 was deficient by $3 million. ABC develops an assessment plan that's approved by their board, and they have determined that your share of the assessment is $200,000. You are legally bound to pay that $200,000 assessment, even though you have not been a member of ABC Self-Insured Fund since June 30th, 2021. Could we go to slide 33, please? Oh, I'm sorry, one back. Thank you. Finally, Commissioner Clark wanted us to know that self-insuring can expose school districts to significant unpredictable financial liability, potentially creating major cash flow challenges for the district. Self-insuring requires robust financial reserves for both the school district being insured and the self-insured fund, and it risks draining necessary funds for education. Now, please note that the DOI is not trying to deter anybody from joining a self-insured group. That's not the message today. We're simply emphasizing the importance of knowing the risk associated with membership in a self-insured fund. So our contact info is provided at the beginning of this presentation, and we would encourage you to send us any comments or questions, and we will try to reply as promptly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Stacy, do we have any questions?
Yes, Jen, we had one question from Superintendent Baker of Walton Verona, and we will make sure that that is answered after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Now, next up is Dr. Perry with us, or is he still with the legislators?
Brian saved everyone from having to listen to me through this.
Just a quick note on the calendar as we are getting late in the session. We've got 2 weeks left of regular meetings, of regular legislative days, and then they will take a quick break, reconvene for 2 days on the 31st and the 1st for concurrence days. So bills that have cleared both chambers but picked up a change in the second chamber, they have to agree or disagree, and then they'll hammer out differences on those bills in concurrence. Then they'll take a break for the veto period, so the governor can take action on any bills that reach his desk before the veto period starts. He can sign those bills into law, he can veto them, or he can allow them to become law without his signature. And just as a reminder, on any bill other than the budget bill, it's an all or nothing veto. So he has line item veto power in the budget bill. Everything else is an all or nothing. And then the General Assembly will reconvene on the 14th and 15th for the final 2 days of the session, where they will primarily consider overriding any vetoes that the governor has issued. And then they'll adjourn sine die on April 15th, and barring a special election, will not be back until next January. So there's the session calendar. I don't think anything has changed, and is unlikely to at this point. Next slide. So this is a reminder. Here are the primary committees that we follow and the usual day and time that they meet. Again, now that we're getting late into session, you may see a special called session for A&R or education. So just pay attention in case you're trying to follow them along. Next slide. Oh, and all of those should be streamed. They should be streamed either on KET or the LRC YouTube website. Again, as we've getting later in the calendar, more committees are meeting at the same time. So you may have to check both places if you're looking for a specific committee. Next slide. So I wanted to give some updates on legislation that's been filed. You may have noticed, if you've been following along, that I think we're very close to 1,300 bills between the two chambers. I think we have nearly 300 bills that we have flagged and are tracking. A lot of those bills are property tax related. So please pay attention to those conversations. I know those have an potential impact on districts, so that's why we flagged those. But a lot of legislation, a lot of bills. I did not put anywhere near all of them on here. So we will kind of talk about a handful. So I did want to talk about the KBE and department priorities as we headed into the session. I'm happy to say that we have seen bills filed and move related to just about everything that we brought forward as a priority. So obviously our top priority of the session was House Bill 257. That is the reimagined assessment and accountability system that includes those local indicators of quality or local assessment. That bill is in the Senate. Hopefully we will see them take action on that before the end of the session. I think that we are in a good place with the current version of 257. So we'll see if the Senate makes any changes and go from there. Senate Bill 22 is a reimagining of Senator Higdon's bill from last session. If you'll remember, he filed a bill kind of later in the session last year that would have expanded the number of dual credit courses available for students in the teaching and learning pathway. That got a huge fiscal note attached to it because it assumed every student in the teaching and learning pathway would take the maximum number of dual credit allowed. Over the interim, we met and talked with stakeholders about this one. We've ended up on essentially a registered teacher apprenticeship program bill. So there are 3 registered teacher apprenticeship programs in the state right now. So it will impact those districts immediately. And then obviously if other districts are interested, they could benefit as well. I also continue to remind people that this will not stop us from continuing to talk about sort of a broader teacher scholarship bill in the future. There's still some conversations happening around the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship. So it's a bit of a challenge because the Work Ready Scholarship was really created with CTE pathways in mind. So programs that terminate in an applied associate's degree and then have sub-associate credentials that can be earned along the way and that provide pathways into the profession. So nursing is kind of the typical example. Education is a little different. You have to have a bachelor's degree to be certified in Kentucky. So it's continuing to have those conversations about how those work ready dollars could potentially be used to benefit aspiring teachers. So Senator Williams also filed a cleanup bill for us. This had a number of items in it. The things that have remained, I think, are going to be of interest to districts, primarily replacing the outdated KEPS system with a statewide job portal and common application. There seems to be a lot of interest in that. There's actually a House bill that has moved over to the Senate that does that as well and has that language in it. So I think that is looking likely to get across the finish line and will be an exciting change. We had a number of cleanup items related to the waiver process that was impacted by Senate Bill 207 from last session. There's also a cleanup continuation bill for 207 this session. So some of those items are in that as well. It's unclear where some of those will land. We have also asked to repeal a couple of education technology items, an outdated teacher computer purchase program statute, and then the Council for Education Technology hasn't met in decades, trying to clean up that language, and also trying to clarify ownership of the FFA Leadership Training Center. That was related to an audit finding from last summer. And then last session, Senate Bill 9 has districts adopting a maternity leave policy, and we are asking for language that would mirror that for our employees at the ATCs. Then House Bill 727 is what I mentioned. Representative Riley filed that KEPS replacement language. It is over in the Senate now. It got voted out of the House yesterday afternoon. So again, I feel fairly confident that we'll see the Senate take action on that before the end of the session. I know a lot of folks in the districts and around the state were waiting for cleanup on Senate Bill 181 from last session. That's the communication bill from last session. Senator Titchener did file her expected cleanup as Senate Bill 181 again this year, so a little confusing, but you'll see the link there. And then Representative Payne in the House, they also passed House Bill 67. There are some slight differences. 67 contains covers a few more bases, if you will, than 181. I think 181 contained pretty much everything we had hoped to see get addressed. So we are happy with both versions of these, and we'll look for one of them to get across the finish line here in the next couple of weeks. And then our OELE folks have been working with staff, LRC staff, on what became House Bill 759. It kind of re-envisions the alternative pathways and renames them using some common language. So if you've not taken a look at that bill, please do so. But those are the kind of the priorities that we came in looking to address in the session. And as you can see, we've had some pretty good success getting stuff filed and moving so far. So we'll see if we close out strong in the next 2 weeks. Commissioner, anything to add as it relates to our priorities? For House Bill 257?
Thank you, Dr. Perry. I just want to reiterate about House Bill 500, the budget bill. You know, we've talked to legislators about the increase. You're looking at, I think, something like $20 million increase when it comes to the individual students, when it comes, to SEEK, and then the first year, and something like 50 million in the second year. But we've also taken the full funding transportation number. We've actually, in Representative Petrie's defense, we did not have that number calculated until after, or right around the same time that the House budget was actually sent across to the Senate. We have met with Senator McDaniel to let him know what that number is. And we are lobbying for the full funding of transportation to help districts out. Right now, I think we're around a little less than 399 million is what is in the House Bill 500 sub. That would be essentially 81% of transportation funded. But we're also asking for 492 million total. So you're looking at about $93 million more per year to meet the quote unquote fully funding transportation at the level where it should be. So that's been one of our big priorities also with talking with, after we got things rolling. Of course, we always try to lobby for the additional funding. But again, that fully funding transportation has been a really big push for us. But other than that, I think, Dr. Perry, I think you covered everything very well as far as some of our priorities so far.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So we'll run through a few of the bills in the House and Senate. Like I said, there's about 1,300 bills. So we're just going to mention a few. I did want to point out that the top 5 Senate bills were all education-related bills. In my time in Frankfurt, I don't know that I've ever seen the top 5 bills in either chamber be related to the same subject. So it really highlights the emphasis the Senate was putting on education this year. I don't know that we'll run through these unless the commissioner has something he wants to say about any of them. These all got voted out of the Senate. The top 5 got voted out pretty quickly. The House has taken action on Senate Bill 5. Don't know that any of the others have yet moved much, but we'll see them get addressed in the next week or so, I imagine. I also added Senate Bill 6 here just because it does appropriate a rather large amount of money. It does go to the universities for an endowed research fund, but just wanted to highlight that since it is also education related.
I'll add to it, Dr. Perry, on Senate Bill 2, I believe that there is a waiver process in there for the commissioner to be able to waive.
That's correct.
Maybe if you're looking at maybe a superintendent that's moving into their second contract and a district wants to increase that, if you're doing a great job and your board wants to keep you, I'm sure there's other districts that would try to recruit you also. So it'd be unfair, really, for that district to not be able to be in the market to keep an excellent superintendent. And we have plenty of those across the Commonwealth. So again, there is a waiver in there I believe, for the commissioner to be able to waive that as you move forward. There's also some waiver language in there. For example, if you had a change in job description, maybe some jobs that have been, maybe you had a reduction in force or a reduction in staff at central office. Someone takes on an extra duty, then maybe you'd be able to increase their salary based on that, things of that nature too. Also too, in Senate Bill 4, just to reemphasize the way that is right now, again, the first 2 years are trainings from KDE. The third year is a gap year. The fourth year is the Truist Chamber of Commerce program, which I had principals to attend, it's an excellent program. And then the fifth year is a menu of options. So again, that gives districts an option of the fifth year. Just being open with people here, and we talked to West about this. We had first asked for maybe a 2-year program here. Then we also went in to talk to him about a 3-year program. But he felt strongly that this needed to be a 5-year program. So again, we've had some conversations with Senator West about this being a little bit longer than what it needs to be. But I will say there are some positive points to having that, including mentorship. As it goes through, KDE would also be facilitating mentorship for new principals too as it goes forward. But again, make sure that when you talk with your legislators, that you go through any type of issue that you have, make sure that you talk to them specifically. Was there any more Senate bills we're going over today, Brian?
Next slide, please. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
A few more.
I figured we had a few more.
So you'll notice that there's a couple. That first one right there is a bill of concern. You might want to take a look at that one. Deneen's Senate Bill 46 is related to school transportation. The reg that you may have seen us keep deferring the last few months is related to that bill. Senate Bill 59, again, is a bit of a repeat bill. I think we've seen versions of this passed in the past few years. That was in committee today. Deneen's Senate Bill 71 moved fairly early. It puts a financial training requirement for local board members. There's several other local board bills out there as well. Senate Bill 101 and Senate Bill 162 are both related to student discipline. If you've not taken a look at those bills, I would do so. Senate Bill 152 moved over a while ago and has been sitting in the House. Not sure if it will get a consideration this time around in the House or not, but it does make a change to the school-based decision-making councils. So if you've not looked at that one, I would do so. Senate Bill 170, again, a topic we've seen the last few years is truancy. This is creating a pilot program to try to address that issue. And then 263 there at the bottom is the continuation or cleanup for Senate Bill 207 from last time around. That created took the district level innovation tag and moved it down to the school level. This makes some tweaks to that bill, as well as creates an innovation fund that the department would then be responsible for distributing to districts. So
Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Senate Bill 41 also, it talks about if you go above the 4%, that it would be automatically instead of waiting for for example, recallable nickel, if it goes, if you go beyond the 4%, it would automatically go to the ballot that whether or not you can raise that tax if you go above the 4%. Now, think about Senate Bill 41 combined with Senate Bill 59. What exactly could you put out to inform people about what exactly that you're putting those dollars towards. So again, 41 and 59 put together, I think is would be a struggle for districts. As a former superintendent, it's one of the things I would see as a part of that also too. So there are some things in the Senate Bill 263 that would possibly expedite some waivers potentially. There are some other areas in there that I'm not saying we completely agree with Senator West in that, but there are some things that that could be positives for districts and also to some areas of concern there. I'll make one more comment about House Bill. I'll make a comment about House Bill 1. Personally, when reviewing House Bill 1, is there potential to help districts? Yes. I do have two concerns. One, if you look at the scholarship granting organizations, would this create a funding gap between the high poverty areas and other areas in the state? So that's one of my concerns. And probably my bigger concern of the two would be we haven't really seen federal regulations on this. What exactly are the guardrails for this House Bill 1 as it goes through? Now, are there potential for some positives? Sure. But on the other hand, too, I'm worried about what exactly those guardrails look like as essentially we're creating a voucher program as we move forward. So so those are my concerns with House Bill 1.
Hey, Jen, go to the next slide. I think that's on.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I'm glad you put that on there. House Bill 1 from Moser. That's one that has a little bit of issues for me as far as the two that I discussed with you. I've talked to different legislators about this bill, try to point out some things that I had issues with. But again, depending on how the guardrails are set up, we'll see how it goes. But to me, this is another voucher bill as we move forward. So personally, if you're asking the commissioner how would he vote, I'd vote no on this one. But again, we'll see how it goes throughout the House as we move forward. So I'll turn the rest back over to Brian. If there's anything that you want to add, there's several others as we go through.
Yeah, so just on House Bill 1, I think that from the member standpoint, one of the concerns from members on the borders that we heard was that anybody can make a donation to one of these qualified or scholarship granting organizations to get that federal tax credit, including those that are out of state. However, the SGOs in turn can only distribute that money within their own state. So, if
that was, again, agree with that. That is a big concern. Like if you're, I'll just point out Henderson County. If you're on the border there, then someone from Henderson County could write a check to Indiana and at an SGO in Indiana, and that money never comes back to Kentucky. So there are some things that are concerned both ways as you move forward.
Yeah, and we're, I think, waiting on some federal regulations that will flush out some of the questions that are surrounding this at this point. House Bill 4 is an anti-grooming bill. It does not just aimed at teachers. It's a broader bill, but it does contain some language around teachers within it. Stop arms cameras for buses. This is a bill that Representative Hale has filed for a number of years. This is his last session, and I suspect that's why we see it with a low number this year. It is permissive, however, and does not mandate the stop arm cameras. Again, another bill that we've seen before, Representative Tipton, his prohibition on 3Qing. Hopefully we'll see that one get across the finish line this time around. House Bill 280 permits schools to stock that particular medication there. So if you haven't taken a look at that bill, please do so. House Bill 307 is one that we've had quite a few conversations about. This bill essentially has the universities getting your directory level information from the department so that they can contact students about proactive admissions to the post-secondary institutions. I think it's important to note that we've already sort of set up this process in IC with an ad hoc report that can generate those proactive admissions letters for the students in your districts. And then, you all can then provide them to families in the method that they have selected. So the way that 307 is currently set up is a little more cumbersome. So we continue to have some conversations around how we can streamline that process. But if you've not taken a look at that, please do so, because I do think it will have an impact on your districts in terms of some additional reporting requirements.
Yeah, there would be some more on 307. There'd be additional reporting requirements that you would have to get to us about, not only directory level information, but what would be the preferred method of contact for universities to schools. And then there'd be also things we'd have to report to LRC. But essentially, we had provided information on this, on how to do this, where a district, there is a process in place where you can basically print out your own letter as long as universities would give us the information. So instead of schools kind of be able to just click a button and move, there's no click a button and send it to us type of process. And it's more than just that. So if you look at this bill, this creates a little more cumbersome of a situation for districts, but also for us too, as far as reporting directory information, along with, I think there's ACT, SAT scores and other information you would give to us. We have to be able to put it together and send it to universities. Again, it was something that we didn't agree upon with, we sat in a room with CPE and also Council Post-Secondary Education, Representative Tipton, and we all agreed on what to do once we left the room, came back, this bill looked totally different. So again, a little frustrated with that, but again, it is Frankfurt at times. There are a lot of great things that go on here, but that's one of those I was a little bit frustrated with as what came out after we'd already agreed on all parts on 307. So, but anyway, that's where that one is. I do recommend you look at it, see what your thoughts are as we move forward.
And then with House Bill 415, Representative Kleins was trying to do some cleanup around his House Bill 300 from last session or the session before. So if you're not taking a look at that one, please do. We continue to provide a little bit of feedback on that one, so we'll see where it ends up. Jen, I think I have one more slide.
415 too, Brian, just so that we know that it requires that an appeal process go through the Attorney General, and if it's not resolved within 60 days, then that would be dismissed with prejudice, which means that same charge would be basically dismissed and not brought back. So that's some of the language in 415 that we're struggling with, is having anything dismissed with prejudice, even though we can't control that, would be a problem.
Yeah, and there, like I said, there's several educator misconduct bills or related bills that they've been working on. So we've been trying to highlight that potential conflict with those bills there in 415, particularly around that dismissed with prejudice language. Kleins also has House Bill 416. This one looks to change the kind of initial undergrad admissions into an EPP and have them take a formative assessment that would then not determine whether or not the student is allowed or enrolled in the EPP, but really just kind of guide the EPP and what's that student's strength and weakness. And then on the back end, tailor the assessments to just the content areas that the person will be teaching in. So House Bill 500 is the budget bill. Commissioner already made some comments about that. I think that we will likely see the Senate vote out their budget next week, as we only have 2 weeks left. And then obviously they will go to a conference committee there those 2 days at the end of the month and hammer out the final version of the budget that will go to the governor for action. Whatever version goes to the governor for action is likely going to be the final version, because to overturn any line item vetoes in the budget when they get back after the veto period, they just need a simple majority vote in each chamber. And with super majorities, it has not been difficult to override veto split. House Bill 555 is another one that was in committee this morning. It permits student-based enterprises within the school. So if you're not taking a look at this bill, please do so. I picked up a small tweak this morning to try to make sure that they're in compliance with the federal regulations around school food. So again, please take a look at that and make sure you're aware of that one. Senate bill or House Bill 552, Representative Truitt came to us kind of near the beginning of the session to talk about this idea, but it is to provide alternative high school diplomas for high need students. We and Representative Truitt have been working with other stakeholders like the chamber and other folks to really make sure that this is a credential that provides value to those students and their families, and does or will provide really an opportunity in the workforce. So one of the things we heard was that those students are unfortunately kind of running into some barriers because they don't typically get a traditional diploma right now, and that certificate that they're getting, the certificate of completion, isn't being recognized in quite the same way. And so the idea here is to provide those students with a better credential for the workplace.
And Brian, I'll add to that, as far as 562, first of all, this is a good bill. This is a very good bill, in my opinion. We just got to make sure there's not some unintended consequences with this. But first and foremost, the positives with the alternative high school diplomas is, as everyone on this call knows, your FMD students, a lot of those students typically get a certificate of completion, which really they can't use as for employment, things of that nature. This really works with the federal law and tries to push this to a point where these students can get an alternate high school. It would be called a Kentucky high school diploma, where this would also be used for employment. We're looking, again, as Dr. Perry pointed out, working with other industries, even with KCTCS, to recognize this diploma, because again, maybe some of those higher performing, higher functioning students can meet those grade level standards in a different way. Now, the other part to that is not only would they get a true diploma that allows them to be employed, but it would also, those students can be included in your graduation rate. So before, if you had a student that got a certificate of completion, and that certificate of completion is still there, and still you'll have a large number of your FMD students that would get that certificate of completion if they can't meet the requirements of the alternative high school diploma. So a positive side effect would be the increase in graduation rate. But here's a negative. As we've talked with our surtax and people across the state, our waiver for the 1% cap has been denied. We're in that situation with many other states, so we can't see this as a again, we abide by the IEPs, the IDEA laws, everything of that nature. But hopefully the side effect of this is we're not going to increase the number of students that are taking the alternate assessment. We need to be very careful about that, because we have to do an intervention plan, and we're in the preliminary stages of that, working with USAID to make sure that we don't lose any federal funding as we move forward. So again, very excited about this, but we got to be very cautious as we look at our alternate assessments as we move forward with 562. So please keep that in mind as we move forward.
And then the last bill I'll mention is 757 there at the bottom. This is the revenue bill. So this makes some pretty significant changes to the taxes that districts can and cannot collect. So if you have not reviewed the current version of 757, please do so. It is over in the Senate now, so there is still some time to take action on that. Oh, and I forgot to mention 631 and 635. So these are the two calendar related bills. Neither one of these bills has moved yet. They're both sitting in primary and secondary education. Hasn't been a lot of chatter on them. So it's a little unclear if they're going to take action on either one of these at this point.
We did provide some input on 635 to help out with Truett. So again, folks, if you're looking for relief in the calendars, you need to talk to your legislators on it, because these two right now are not moving.
Nope, they're sitting in primary and secondary education. And again, 2 weeks left to go. It's getting to be a tight window to get those across the finish line, at least before the veto period. They can send bills to the governor for action on those final 2 days of the session. They're in the mid-April, but they cannot override any potential vetoes. So next slide, please. I think I have one more slide. Yes. So just as a reminder, we do put out non-regulatory guidance on all the bills that are set to become law. We will typically start with the bills that have emergency clauses on all or part of them, because those are going to affect quickly, and we want to get that out there for you all. But last session, we just did one guidance document. So in any case, we will move quickly to get guidance posted there on the webpage shortly after the session's over. And I think that's it for me.
All right, that is the end for you, Brian. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Well, I'll finish Dr. Perry's portion there, and it's something I think that's very important for our superintendents to realize is, and many of you probably know this, but we do go through an additional budget request process. We have all of our leadership here to look at what type of additional funding above and beyond what's there, that we take to our board. We went through this probably for about 8 or 9 months. We ranked 20, I think it's either 27 or 28 additional budget requests. Everything from increasing SEEK base to increasing SEEK transportation to additional preschool funding to how to increase Ed Rising, career technical funding. There was 27 different items that we sent across. As the budget started moving, we try to focus on those that people seem to have a little more interest in and try to push those a little bit more as we can move forward. But again, we do send additional budget requests over early on in the process, and we even did it earlier this year than normal to make sure that Petrie and also McDaniel and others had copies of the additional budget requests. I will say there were some cuts in some of our operating budget here. We were not focused on those as nearly as much as we are trying to focus on that full transportation funding as we move forward. So again, I do want to thank our legislators that we've had a lot of input on a lot of bills, and there's been a lot of things that we've been able to partner with and maybe even head off some things. So the bills that are moving, there's a lot that we agree with and some of them we don't. And we're trying to limit harm as much as possible. But if there's something that you feel that is that you can get on board with, that you can go talk to legislators about, by all means do so. You're welcome to give me a call. I think everyone here has my cell phone number if you want to give me a text or a call. But I think it's so important for you to lobby, because I can't tell you, I think Dr. Perry would agree, how many times that we go talk with legislators and they'll say, how does my superintendent feel about this, or something of that nature. So it is very important to talk to your legislators about different points. And there may be some things even we disagree on. That's fine. That's okay. It's better if we have a unified voice and that we all understand where we're coming from as we move forward. So again, I do want to thank our legislators, although there are some things that have been frustrating over the past 2 years. There has also been a lot of victories too that I would consider victories, and a lot of collaboration with our legislators. And I do appreciate that. And also thank you to Dr. Perry and everyone here at KDE, because everybody here at KDE, once a legislator calls, it's a stop, drop, and roll. We pretty much stop what we're doing. We try to answer questions. We try to make sure we give input. And try to do what's best for the kids of the Commonwealth. Every single department here, when a legislator calls, we are on the phone. We do our best to try to make sure it moves forward in a positive way for our school districts. So with that being said, maybe some questions for us, maybe as we went through. Stacy, was there any questions that came through?
No additional questions, Commissioner, no.
Okay, there wasn't a question that was sent earlier. We were asked to send that directly to the Department of Insurance. So I think Superintendent Baker there at Walton Verona, you had a question that we'll send on to the Department of Insurance and ask them to answer that for you. And when we send it, Stacy, whoever we have that send it over, please CC Superintendent Baker on that too. That way he can see our question as we send it forward, please.
Yes, I will, Commissioner. And also Superintendent Richardson had a question, and we were making sure to get that answered as well by PPC.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Again, you don't have to email us directly. You can, or you can email the folks that, from the slideshow that was sent earlier. But if you feel more comfortable sending us, we will send that on for you and try our best to get those answers as we move forward. Some important dates. Again, a very packed agenda today as we go through. Anytime you're in the middle of legislative session, especially in the budget area, it does make for a busy day. But again, next week, another busy week. We have the All In for Ag Week. That is March 16th through the 20th. I've had several questions. I think there's been a request from our Commissioner of Agriculture and from the area to have maybe I'll say a director or a district level position that can help coordinate those All In for Ag Weeks. That's a request from the Ag Department. We encourage it, but it's not something that's required. So, but if you're able to do that, I think that'd be very helpful in the All In for Ag Week activities. Also, that's next week, March 16th through the 20th. I have I'll be putting a lot of miles on my vehicle that next week to see some of the things that are going on across the Commonwealth. We also have our Teacher Advisory Council meeting on March 18th. We have the Family Partnership Council on March 18th. Executive Board of Education, our next meeting, and the next one's in person. As you recall, we did implement a virtual learning sessions on the odd months, but our even months, we have in-person meetings where we really try to do business within those. So that's April 8th through the 9th. We also have our Superintendent Webcast. The next one's April 14th. And then the next EPSB of Education Professional Standard Board meeting is April 21st. Again, thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions for me, feel free to text or send us an email. We'll do our best to try to help out and get those answers for you. We appreciate what you do each and every day. If you've got spring break coming up, please take some time to enjoy your family. We appreciate what you do. We appreciate everything across the Commonwealth that our teachers, educators, we are so thankful for your being all in.